We've got a good thing. You can't hear that. I apologize. We just go directly to YouTube. Dismiss that. Thank you. My channel. Be right back. I'm gonna run to the toilet. Let's go! Is that a baton in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? You lock me up, arrest me, I make sexy. Oh, yes, Queen. Very much so. Valentine is in here. Good, 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 good. Good luck to you tonight, Valentine. Really pulling for you here, as always. Fire reacted by Bobbert Yates, Alfred the Duck, Valentine, and myself. Very good, very good. Happy to be here. Albert Park Circuit as well. Thank you, sir. Shall need it. Well, I tell you what, you know, I think, again, and I talked about this last week, you know, I think what do you call it, the partnership between you and Cake is definitely a good one to have. So I think if you guys can extract the most out of each other, pause, that should be a very good team to have. Last week was just terrible. I'm running no line, so it's been an adjustment. I tell you what, that is one of the. I think the assist for the most part, like traction control and ABS, you could probably relatively quickly get used to having it off. Line is just wild. I think realistically, line is probably the hardest assist to have turned off. So hats off to you for even attempting that, really, because that's more than what I would try to do. That's for sure. I'm gonna check the mic input real quick. Test 1 2, test 1 2. Sounds maybe could go a little bit louder. No, that's probably fine. Yeah, maybe a little bit louder so I can turn that on though. I'll practice with it off, but I'm nowhere near competitive yet. Well, I tell you what, yeah, I think these races are sounds perfect to me so far. Very good. I think these races are just like, especially at this level, it's one of those things like you have to kind of get into it with the knowledge of what assists you're already not running. However, what I will say is this: you have the opportunity now. If you're able to get the new game when it comes out, if you're one of the people that can like pick up the new game really quickly, Willie, you know how engine in-game sounds are with it. Yeah, I'm just a little curious about when I'm on board with them, because I know that does amplify it, but I think it should be fine. But if you're one of the people that are going to be able to pick up the new game, like, pretty much right when it comes out, I mean, I probably won't, and then again, I don't drive, but, I mean, if you're one of the people that can go quickly to that new game and then find rhythm, you could seriously make it far. I mean, that's how Race Day 2016 got up there. Line is the only thing you run confident with no ABS traction control. Even still, that's a good place to be. I don't think I would have any complaints with doing that, that's for sure. Possibly. We'll see how my wallet looks coming release. So I tell you what, I just got down here, down to Connecticut for school. This is my 4th day, and I've just had an engine light turn on. So we are doing fantastic. It shouldn't be anything bad, but I think it's screw pre-ordering those hurt me titles. Yeah, no, for sure. What is that classical music coming through the ceiling? Anyways, no, I literally, I've been in this state for 4 days now, or, well, just about a week. Tomorrow is the first week, and I've just had an engine light turn on today. It's either mass airflow sensor or catalytic converter. Now, if it is something like that, I could probably just clear the code and be okay. Like, it's not a big deal. But if it's anything else, then we might be looking at something. Because my car, 2014 Chevy Cruze, 264,000 miles on it. It's a lot. So, I don't know mechanical that much, but I know that's a lot for any given vehicle. So, I'm actually surprised it still gets halfway decent gas. Probably only about, I think when we got the car in like 2014, it was probably like 30 miles a gallon. It's probably down to about 20, just with how old it is. But yeah, either way. No, it's still probably more than that. I'm not too sure. Anyways. See, the current time here on the East Coast is 9:26 p.m. or 21:26. This is a very interesting situation as well, because not only am I going to have the race that we're watching live now, I will also be commentating a little bit of the F1 practice session, which will be starting in about 3 minutes' time as well. This is one of the only, I think this is probably the second time I've ever had a side-by-side cast as well. Oh, it looks like it's starting early here. We've got Alex Jakes already going into the tire talk. Sorry, what was that? What did it say? C5, C4, C3. Okay, well, hey, that's going to help us because that's relevant to where we're at now. Beautiful looking day it is in Australia. I'm interested to see, and the only reason why I'm really watching this session along with the race here is just to see how Carlos Sainz is able to handle his appendix no longer being there. From what I've read, and from what, if you're familiar with the photographer Chaim Illman, was able to take a couple of pictures and interviewed Carlos, and it basically said he's going to do the first session. He's in a lot of pain. He's going to try to do the first session. If he can't do it, he's going to back out. So, yeah, not only are we going to be able to have the Division 2 Australian Grand Prix sessions here tonight, we're also going to be kind of giving you live, up-to-the-minute information with the real-life first practice session. This is very, very cool. Should have a lot of drivers on the grid tonight. I think at least 17 confirmed check-ins, a couple of question marks in there. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the stream in one of the other Discords here, because I know Reimer's in a couple of these, so... And I'll throw this in the European one as well. I highly doubt anybody's going to be looking at this, but... Play streams. Command V. All right, just waiting for the session to get underway here. Be sure to like and subscribe and do whatever the hell you feel like if you get the chance. 17 drivers on the grid at this moment. Oh, Alex Brundle's in the pit lane this week for F1 TV. I would love to have a broadcast with Alex Brundle and Martin Brundle in the same thing, because you would have no idea who was who. And Alex Brundle, despite never being a Formula One driver himself, is very, very knowledgeable on the subject. Like, he knows what he's talking about. He would be a great addition to the Sky commentary team if he ever gets there. But I believe as we have hit 9:30, the practice session is now underway. We're looking at a man in a yellow shirt. Oh, and it's gone. We're now looking at Oscar Piastri make his way out of the pit lane. Hometown hero lived about 10 minutes outside the circuit in Melbourne. Queued up at the end of the pit lane here. It looks as if, oh no, so they're lining up to the practice starts now. I believe one of the stakes have gone out first. I believe it's Zhou Guan Yu. I could be wrong. So I'm wondering how much of this session Carlos Sainz is actually going to be able to do. Now, what I was talking about earlier, he's in a lot of pain. He does have some padding that's been strategically placed on his kind of hip where the surgery had taken place. But what we do know is he's going to do at least the first... he's going to do at least... Who's Bill... Oh... I see. Clever. What we do know is that he's at least going to do the first session here, and then should he need to hand off the driving duties this weekend, he's going to have to make that decision. Again, being only 2 weeks after the surgery had taken place, and of course we've got an additional 2 weeks after this one for what I believe is the Chinese or Japanese Grand Prix. He doesn't need to rush. I know he's in the Ferrari seat, but this is his last season with Ferrari. So, I mean, unless he was really battling for something, I don't think he needs to take it all that much. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I see it. Why does this always say that I'm in NBA 2K20 or something like that, like an old game? It doesn't make any sense to me. George Russell has a little bit of vibration in the steering, and the brake pedal is long, as he's reporting. Bit of an odd situation to have. Usually you enjoy things being longer. Pause. So it'd be quicker to tell you who isn't on track at the moment. That'd be Valtteri Bottas, Max Verstappen, Logan Sargent, Kevin Magnussen, Alex Albon, Hulkenberg, and Sainz are the only drivers not on track at the moment. We're going to get our first run-throughs of proper times here shortly, and I believe, I'm hoping at least that the, what do you call it here, the grid will be set to go here shortly for the MWeS portion of the excitement tonight. As we see that there, Charles Leclerc making his way around the final corner. He'll be out here shortly, and it looks as if, has Knuckles joined his car? Yes, he has. Knuckles flying the Welsh flag, which I find interesting. I do have about 4 different leagues that I commentate at this point, specifically the JAG and the CCRL, 2 of the most internationally diverse leagues I've commentated. This one, not so much, but it's still good to see. Session about to start here. I'll start the hard recording at 10 seconds to 10 seconds left on the timer. 7, no, we're never going to have an I'm smoking since 11, like that. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Albert Park Circuit here in Melbourne, Australia for the 3rd round of this Division 2 season in the MWeS F1 League, the 12th season of the MWeS F1 League. Hotspot on the call for you this evening. Glad to be back here. So, interesting one tonight. Not only do we have the Australian Grand Prix in the virtual world, which you're going to be seeing in a little bit, we do have currently the first practice session of the real-life Formula 1 Australian Grand Prix, which I also have up on the side, so if anything happens, I'll be sure to let you know. 18 drivers on the grid tonight. It's going to be a fun one here at the Albert Park Circuit, which, as you know, has been very much revamped and revitalized in these past couple of seasons since the 2022 race was the first time on this new layout. Now, again, before this new layout came into play, there was a lot of questions as to if this track belonged on the schedule. I can confidently say now this is one of the more entertaining tracks now with these improvements made. The 16 corners as it previously was has been reduced down to 14. An additional DRS zone added, so 4 of them now. And as very much alike to real life, bright and sunny day here in Melbourne. So, 18 drivers on track. Let's run you through the driver and constructor standings so far this season. Heading into the 3rd round of the season after last week in Hungary, VTEC has the lead of the standings, 60 points. Behind the 2 Ferraris at Fire Up Flow at 54, Electric Blade at 50, Cake Thomas 48, Manigos and Knuckles tied at 47, the other Aston Martin of Reimer at 44, Final Flame at 36, tied with actually just a 1 point ahead of Brian Mosser. Noganator 35, DB DeBest 32, Wild Poros 31, Scavney 28, Ayahuasca and Valentine tied at 22, Adeltonian 19, Andrew Mason 18, Hightower 16, Slayerized 14, and Ray Ray still yet to find the points here in the Division 2 season. But again, I think Ray Ray, if I'm to be corrected, this is his first season on the wheel and pedals, and I tell you what, last time out in Hungary, he had himself a very good effort there. I'm being pinged to the Division 2 Discord track. Dry all around, according to Brian Mosser. Very good. Thank you to Brian Mosser for that. We've got ourselves a dry broadcast here and a dry race to have. Suddenly, the quality has been toned down a little bit on my computer. I'm going back to that now to fix it. There it is. All looks good. So, it looks as if DB DeBest will be the first on the timed lap here. As I say that, he's going to be overtaken by the Alpha Tauri of Scavney. Good to see him back in Division 2. It's been I don't want to say a little bit, but a driver Division 2 is very familiar with, back out on track here. Looks as if Oscar Piastri to the line is going to be completing his lap shortly. And he'll go second place behind Lance Stroll, about 7/100ths behind. Stroll fastest so far with a 1:27.78, 52 minutes to go, and Norris immediately tops that by just over a tenth. But, anyways, Scavney, 7:20, one of the most veteran drivers on the Division 2 grid, is ready to go. He's going to be making his way out of the final corner here, down the pit straight, and onto his timed laps. into the first corner he goes. It's not necessarily a tight first corner, but the exit of the track really gets to you there. As you can see, he's immediately invalidated. So we'll go along with MWeS. Let's see if he can pick up a good one here. Well, he's done turn 2 properly. Exits very nicely down the straight here. DRS activated in towards turn 3. Very tight right-handed corner, which we saw Fernando Alonso and who I believe was Esteban Gutierrez had their massive incident back a couple of years ago through turn 5 now. Still a very treacherous corner, that oversteer to be had. Turn 6 and 7. Does well through the long sweeping right-hander of turn 8. And then you'll get the DRS here only now. Now, that was a very difficult DRS zone to be able to see. Usually, the driver has a couple of indications to see whether or not he has DRS. One of them being the lights on the steering wheel, the little manual beep that you hear in your ear, and then also the sign and the line across the ground. But I don't know if you saw that or not. That sign and line, very difficult to see. Can we go along with Electric Blade here? Keep an eye on the right side of your circuit right about now. Nope, even I got it wrong. That's where it actually begun. You cannot see where that DRS zone begins. Typically, it's a very visible line, not here. MWeS making his way now through the turns 13 and 14. Down the pit straight he goes. Looking like it's going to be a halfway decent lap here for the Mercedes. 118.401, not bad. Don't think it's going to be worth pole, as Chief Braid's 119.421. Hey, Chief Braid's back on the grid today. Good to see him. As Visa Cash App VTech 87, Puerto Rico, number 1, 118.075. The current championship leader has put 3.5 tenths back to MWeS. That is a very good lap there. So the line now is one of the Ferrari drivers. It's going to be that of, it's going to be Electric Blade, who has gone within 3 tenths of a second. Knuckles has gone 4th. Now from, what is that, to P1 to P3 there again. Still about 4 tenths of a second, 3:25 to be exact. Less than 7 100ths between Electric Blade and MWeS here. Next up, we're on a time lap. We've got the pair of the McLaren drivers. It looks like Cake Thomas and Valentine making their way down the straight. Cake has invalidated that previous attempt. Valentine has gone 8th. Now, this is something we like to see here on behalf of the McLaren team. We do see, oh no, Kentucky lost to Oakland. That is ridiculous. As Ayahuasca goes top of the table by 5 100ths over Visa Cash App. Until the Dayton and Nevada game, I was 7 for 7 on the day. I am now 7 for 9. As we've just had Kentucky lose to Oakland, losing to the 14 seed. That is a massively depressing result there. Cake Thomas through Sector 2 now. I can't believe how many things I'm trying to focus on here at once. Cake Thomas going through turn 8 now. He'll have the DRS. He's got a little bit of a toe ahead from what I believe is the Aston Martin of Reimer. He'll make his way around the outside in towards 9 and 10 now. Tricky couple of corners this. But with this new generation cars, it seems a lot easier. As with the added amounts of downforce, you can just sweep right through those corners, no problem at all. Ahead of him is the Williams of Hightower, who I believe is on a timed lap. No, it doesn't look as if he is. Cake Thomas now making his way into turn 13. Out of the final corner goes Cake Thomas. Down the pit straight he goes. He'll have a little bit of a tow from the Williams ahead. Hightower goes 13th, not on a competitive timer. Cake Thomas 118.352. Moves within 3.5 tenths of the top spot. P1 to P6 separated by less than 5.5 tenths. Division 2, one of the more competitive divisions I get to cast on here, so very, very good. Next to the line, the other McLaren, that being a Valentine, who I believe might be either starting another one here. Yeah, I'm assuming he's starting another one. He probably had enough for a cool down and then came back out. He actually handled 1 and 2 very well. We'll probably go purple Sector 1 here. Look at a fair effort so far. To the inside of turn 3, holds it well. Now through turn 4, does he hold exit? He could have gone wider and used a little bit more acceleration, but he's done all right. Turn 5 now. 4.5 tenths of a second is, oh, Ayahuasca's gone off. Now this is exiting the pit lane there. Well, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find out who's coming out on track. Brian Mosser. Ayahuasca had gone off track past turn 1. Yeesh. Don't know what has happened to Ayahuasca there, but his 118.20 is going to have to do well, because at the moment he's not going to get another attempt. Valentine down into turn 11 now. A little bit slow on the way in, a little bit of oversteer on the way out. Reimer 117.730. Beating Ayahuasca by nearly 0.3 of a second there, the Aston Martin. Very nicely done. Out of the final corner looks Valentine. I do believe this will probably be an improvement. I could be wrong, but let's see. Valentine will actually go P9, 118.994. Moves his way up to 9th. He is currently in a good sea of drivers there in the midfield. That is a competitive time for the time being, I think. He'll need a little bit more to be able to hold on to the top 10, but not a bad one there at all. So now, of course, 14 corners making up this 5.2-kilometer circuit. The lap record currently being held by Sergio Perez at a 1:22.35. Although currently, with about 45 minutes to go in free practice 1, Verstappen has a it is Checo Perez, 1:19.238. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. Coming to the line now is one of the Haas drivers. I believe it's going to be Final Flame, and across the line, provisional pole, 1:17.690. Puts 4 100ths back to Reimer. Wow, so we're looking at a very competitive one here. Final Flame atop the table. Got the Williams of Hightower on his way in now. We'll also have one of the Aston Martin drivers. I believe it must only just be that of Reimer. No teammate on the grid tonight for him. To the line now, Electric Blade starting a timed lap. I do believe there are corner names to this circuit. I don't know. If I'm to be corrected, there are legitimate corner names to this track. I do not know what they are, but as I try to look at them here, yep. Making his way through turn 6 into turns 7 and 8 now. Eventually into Clark Corner here, named after Jim Clark. Going through now turns 9 and 10. 0.3 of a second quicker through Sector 2, making his way now towards the Alberto Ascari corner. After that, he'll head to the Jackie Stewart corner, Alain Prost, and then the final corner of turn 16. So into the Alain Prost corner now. Looking like a pretty good lap this here from the Ferrari. Will be interesting to see where he comes out at. Out of the final corner, holds acceleration well and across the line. And it is going to be P3 for Electric Blade, 117.789, improves by 5.5 tenths. That'll move the top 3 now within a tenth of the pole time. Sorry, 2 drivers within a tenth of the pole time, Reimer and Electric Blade. DB DeBest a little bit further behind, not on a timed lap here. 7 minutes and 40 seconds to go here in in the qualifying session. There is no Q2. Verstappen a 1:18.670. Put 0.4 of a second back to Charles Leclerc. Of course, this is free practice 1, so it doesn't really mean anything, but still, that's impressive. Coming to the line now is the other Ferrari, that being a fire-up flow to the line, and he's gone 8th, 1:18.291, improves by a clean second there, not a bad time at all. Into the top 8 goes the Ferrari, and while we have a moment here, let's take a look at the constructor standings as well. We look at the driver standings earlier on, constructor standings up next. For the time being, Ferrari does lead the table at 104 points. Alpine 10 points behind at 94, Aston Martin at 91. Good battle there amongst the top 3. McLaren at 70, Haas at 67, Red Bull 61, AlphaTauri 55, Mercedes 50, Williams 44, and Alfa Romeo 35. So, I tell you what, even if you're one of the teams toward the bottom end of the table, there is still a lot left to play for here. So that's going to be very good to see. Fire Up Flow, as we can tell, is going to be on his in-lap here shortly. We do have the AlphaTauri of Adeltonian, who for the time being, at least I think that last time... Well, let's see here. Let's see what Adeltonian has for us. And he's quicker by 0.2 of a second at the moment. That won't be enough to improve him on the leaderboards, but that'll be a good improvement there. Still be a couple of tenths shy of the Noganator unless he can put together a good second sector here. And into that second sector timing line now, and he's 0.4 of a second quicker, so that'll put him up to P10 roughly. He'll need to nail this final couple of corners here if he wants to hold on to this time. Adeltonian, one of the most tenured Division 2 drivers on the grid as Visa Cash App VTEC Puerto Rico #1 goes 1:17.647. Only puts 4 100ths back to Final Flame. So 4 100ths separate Final Flame from VTEC. Reimer from Final Flame is an additional 4 100ths. And to the line now goes Adaltonian, looking a pretty solid lap up to 7th, 1:18.129, improves by 7.5 tenths, up to that 7th spot for him. Very, very good. Cake Thomas has just gone 9th at well, he's improved a little bit there. Only, 3 100ths of a second separate Cake Thomas from Fire Up Flow for the 10th spot. Matter of fact, the top 12 within a second of the pole time at the moment with 5 minutes to go. So VTEC has just finished his time, DB the best on an outlap. Now we'll have one of the Aston Martins. It's going to be Reimer making his way around the line now. That initial time we saw set by Ayahuasca, we knew was going to be in a little bit of trouble. Ayahuasca, a talented driver, but he's had somewhat of a mishap there going into turn 1, and that car retired very early on in the qualifying session. Reimer into turn 3 now. We have a yellow flag. I don't know, it was for one of the Williams drivers making his way 0.2 of a second quicker through Sector 1 is the Aston Martin of Reimer, the ever-talented. Very recently, though, has to be said, has had a difficult string of races. And across multiple leagues as well. Reimer certainly, even on Wednesday night, could have had a podium in Miami. Unfortunately, picked up a time penalty that took it from him. Still finished 4th. But the late safety car did not help in his case. A couple of weeks ago when we raced in Japan for, I believe, the Monkey Mafia eSports series, the driver crashing out of the race with 1 lap to go. Then I believe last time out in Hungary doing the same. But Reimer making his way now through the Alain Prost corner and into the pit lane. So Reimer has backed off there. I didn't, in my rambling, didn't quite get the chance to see why he's done that, but he's done just that. So into the pit lane is the Aston Martin. Next up around the line looks like it's going to be one of the Alpine drivers. It's going to be that of Brian Mosser into the pit lane. So 3 minutes and 15 seconds, 3 minutes and 10 seconds now, more or less, but running out of time here for some of these drivers. Noganator in towards the Alain Prost corner and now on his way out. As the F1 replay cuts to Carlos Sainz, I'm wondering has something happened with him. No, he looks kind of fine there, has to be said. Noganator to the line has gone 1:18.285, improves by 2.5 tenths. Still not enough to improve on the leaderboards, although now 6 1/1000ths of a second in front of Fire Up Flow, who's on an outlap at the time being. We do now have Scavney 720. In and out of the first 2 corners very easily. 2.5 minutes to go. In towards turn 3 now, looking pretty good. Turn 4 again. This is going to be his final attempt here if he chooses to do this. DB the best 1:17.598. Only 5 100ths back to VTEC in second place. Again, the top 5 now, separated by less than 0.2 of a second. And I tell you what, Scavney looks like he's on a solid one here. We'll get confirmation when he gets to the Sector 2 timing line before turns 9 and 10 here. 2 minutes to go now. 0.3 of a second quicker for Scavney. It's a good lap. Not going to be enough, I think, for anything more than P8. So he'll need a little bit more here out of this final sector into the Alberto Ascari corner. Looking pretty good, but he needs a lot of luck here. Minute 30 to go on what is surely going to be his final timed attempt out of the final corner. DRS activated, down the pit straight he goes. Scavney, I tell you what, looks like he's on a good one. And to P6 goes Scavney, 1:17.931, improves by nearly 0.6 of a second. Now within 1/3 of a second of the pole spot, which looks good, but still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers within the next 0.3 of a second. Scavney's time there might be in a little bit of hot water. DB the Best has invalidated that previous attempt. His recharge light is on. It may look to me like his qualifying session might be over here, unless... No, it will be. Session over for DB the Best. The Williams of VTEC on track now. 0.5 of a second behind the pole time. 45 seconds remain here. Down the straight and into turn 3 goes VTEC. On board with the Williams driver now, looking very confident. This is the most confident we've seen VTEC in a very long time. VTEC, another one of those more tenured drivers, I believe came into the league roughly Season 5, Season 6. He's been here a long time. And he's looking to get himself a good opportunity to go back into Division 1 next season when the new game comes out. Making his way towards turns 9 and 10 now. Slower by 3/100ths through Sector 2. He'll need a final good sector here if he's able to improve any. The AlphaTauri, I believe, of Adaltonian, no, it was that of Scavney, got to the line. He will be starting a new one here. DB to best, oh, and Scavney invalidates out of the final corner. Unfortunate for him. We do have now one of the McLaren drivers in the pit lane. I believe it's just that of Kate Thomas to the line. Yes, it was. Scavney had the ability to start a new lap there, had invalidated. VTEC out of the final corner to the line he goes. He is going to go second by 3/1000ths of a second behind DB to best. Electric Blade in the proceedings went third. Good attempt from him. Still a couple of drivers yet to go here, but a 3/1000th of a second gap between the top two. Goodness me, I mean, that is going to be one for the record books there. I wonder what the closest quality margin is in F1 Midwest F1 history. I don't know it off the top of my head, but maybe could we even have Final Flame get his way into the fray here? This is looking a great lap here for Final Flame to the line. He goes provisional pole, and in fact it will be pole for Final Flame. 1:17.186. Puts 0.4 of a second back to DB to best. What an incredible timed attempt it was from him. And unless Slayerized has something special here in the gravel, that will be the end of the qualifying session. And will look to be a top 3 separated by less than a couple of tenths. Is now separated by 0.4 back to the top spot. Final Flame with a mega lap there. Actually, I would say almost unprecedentedly fast. Not a knock on his talent, but with the times that the grid was running up until then. Incredible stuff. Dry race yet to come here. And this is going to be a very entertaining Grand Prix. Final Flame in the Haas, your pole sitter. So your starting grid then for the Australian Grand Prix, Final Flame, putting in one hell of a qualifying effort at the death. Beats out both DB to best and the Williams of VTEC by 0.4 of a second. Electric Blade 4th, Reimer 5th, Fire Up Flow 6th. The top 5 separated by less than a 5.5 tenths. 7th is Scavney, 8th Ayahuasca after retiring early, 9th Adaltonian, 10th is Slayerized, 11th Kate Thomas, and 12th Noganator, 13th Andrew Mason, 14th Valentine, 15th Knuckles, 16th Brian Mosser, 17th Chief Braids, and rounding out the field P18 is that of Hightower. But the top 12 drivers, the top 13 separated by a second and a half. Positions 2 and 3 separated by 3/1000ths. We've got a good one coming up here. So a very sunny day it looks here in Melbourne. Should have a dry Grand Prix through and through, which will be very good to see. On board with Lewis Hamilton in the real life, and I believe he's taken too much of the curb exiting turn 11. Yes, he is. Wow, that's a lot of bottoming out there. As we look now, this is along with Lando Norris making his way through turn 8 and 9. What is he saying? saying he bottomed out pretty bad and asking the McLaren mechanics to check the floor. I'll give you timing updates here relatively quickly. Top of the table, Verstappen, 118.670. Tsunoda 4 tenths behind. Charles Leclerc 4.5 tenths behind. Perez 5.5 tenths behind. Stroll 6 tenths. Actually, only has Daniel Ricciardo by 10/1000ths of a second. Piastri 7th, Sainz 8th, Esteban Ocon 9th, Lando Norris 10th. Hamilton after that, P11, down by only a little bit. Alex Albon now going 9th. 32 minutes on the dot remaining in the real-life session here, as we're about to begin shortly the Australian Grand Prix here in Division 2. Gee, in the earlier days of MWeS F1, we had a lot of Australian drivers present. El Majaka was one of them. HSVDT, I believe, was also of the Australian type. I think, matter of fact, I think one of my old teammates was as well, back when I raced in Season 7. I think my Mercedes teammate at the time was Australian as well. It could be. Used to be a driver named D&E Nico. He was, I believe, Australian as well. The Australian heritage, not necessarily as prominent as it used to be in MWeS, but still here. Majaka, if you are unfamiliar with the Dirt Rally 2.0 and WRC leagues, he has been absolutely tearing up the Dirt Rally League. Waiting for the formation lap to begin. I'll let you know when I get that up on screen. Let's see, has Brian put anything in the chat? I think Brian Mosser loses out to Knuckles by 5/1000ths of a second. Must have missed that. Can we look back at that? Can we look back at the quali results? I must have missed that. Brian Mosser, yeah, 5/1000ths of a second behind Knuckles. Well, anyways, formation lap underway now here in the land down under. Insert that song by Men at Work now. That'd be helpful. Final Flame, who took a very commanding pole time at the end of it, will lead the grid around the Albert Park circuit here for the formation lap, choosing the medium tires. DB to best, which will be lined up next to the Haas here on the softs. The rest of the top 6 choosing the mediums as well. And then it gets very, very diverse as far as tire strategies. Scavany on the softs, as well as Slayerized, Cake Thomas, and Boo Mason, Valentine, and Chief Braids. Ayahuasca, the only driver on the grid to choose the hard tires. Adol, Tony, Noganator, Knuckles, Brian Mosser, and Hightower choosing the mediums off the start here. So the ratio is 10 drivers to the mediums, I believe. Yeah, 10 drivers to the mediums, 7 on the softs, 1 on the hards, and that rounds out the 18 drivers. So a plethora of tire strategy decisions yet to be had here. Question is going to be DB to best. Well, typically when we talk about a driver being on the front row of the grid, if he's not on pole, he's going to have to make a look to the inside, perhaps a Final Flame into the first corner. What I will say, though, is this. Visa Cash App, WS Visa Cash App VTEC 87 Puerto Rico #1 has, remember, only failed to outqualify DB to best by 3/1000ths of a second. Initially, that's what we thought the pole time was going to be, and what I believe was going to be the closest margin of pole in MWeS F1 history. I could be wrong about that. We'll have to ask Spaceman, the resident stat man. But as I've mentioned, Final Flame came through and put together a good one. And he's going to be leading them back to the grid here. Remember, the top 6, barring that of DB to best, all on the medium, the medium tires. DB to best, the only one of the top 6 having the softs. So again, he should be good here initially off the start. He's going to be hoping for that early safety car. Which, well, I tell you what, when you got 18 drivers on the grid like this at a track like Australia, it is certainly possible. And of course, naturally, the game can't give me one good camera angle to look at, but wouldn't expect anything different. And as Hightower lines up on this grid now, the light's about to turn on. There we go. Lights turning on now. 3, 4, and 5 for the third round of the Division 2 season. They are off, and I think, well, Final Flame, a little bit of wheel spin there, but not as much as DB DeBest. It's going to be a drag race into the first corner. The Williams is going to choose the outside, but he's not going to have the real estate there. He'll actually get around DB DeBest off the line there, and exiting turn 2. Oh, that's a hefty hit with, I believe, the outside barrier. Several cars into the barriers now. The Williams has a puncture. The front wing end plate on the right front side is off. We've got a virtual safety car on track. It's a puncture for the Williams of VTEC there. Several drivers around at the back. I think Cake Thomas had to go around there as well. And Cake Thomas, I'm actually quite surprised he stayed alive as much as he did, because he was right in the midst of it there. Let me see if I can rewind my camera and kind of give myself a replay for the start of the Grand Prix there. So here they go. They're at the line. Virtual safety car out on track here. Lap 12 to 14 is going to be the suggested strategy from soft to mediums as Adaltonian retires this under the virtual safety car. And the virtual safety car extending here. Now, why has Adaltonian retired? I don't think he's done that purposefully. Well, here they go off the line. Final Flame got a really good start. The Williams went deep into the first corner, was able to get around. And I'm just wondering where he actually hit the wall. It was coming out of turn 2. And what's even confusing me more is the fact that I have no idea where he's actually picked up that puncture. It was quite random, the puncture sustained by VTEC here. So virtual safety car on track. It looks like we might be going green here shortly. And it looks as if, yes, there we are. Green flag back in the air here. Final Flame leads DB DeBest and then leads Reimer as the Williams makes his way into the pit lane. We do have a yellow flag coming into the final corner. I believe it is just that of VTEC, who's slightly slower, having to do that. 3 cars choose the pit lane, that being the pair of the Ferraris and the Williams of VTEC. Which will be an interesting one here. Yep, that's the front wing gone there for fire up flow. Electric blade in as well, probably a front wing change. Final Flame leads the grid here through now the second sector. DB DeBest 6.5 tenths behind now. DB did not get away that well off the line. I'm a little surprised that he was actually able to claw back this second spot, but it looks as if Reimer might have a move now. And it's not going to happen to turn 9 and 10. Although less than 2 tenths of a second as Adaltonian leaving the session. Out of turn 10 they go. And Reimer having a bit of a messy exit there, loses about 3 tenths of a second back to the Mercedes. Into the Alberto Ascari corner they go. Now, DB DeBest doing well, but being on the soft tires, you'd think he'd be going a little bit faster. Noganator down to the inside of Ayahuasca. He'll get the 5th spot. Remember, Ayahuasca relatively starting cold here, not only on the hard tires, but crashed out of the session very early on of the qualifying. As we have the, who is that off at the back there? We got Brian Mosser and I believe Hightower, perhaps an incident with the two of them off of the Alberto Ascari corner. Making their way through Sector 1 now. Noganator fastest lap of the Grand Prix, a 1:21.420. I don't believe DRS has been activated here yet. No, it doesn't appear that it has. Good battle here going on between that of Slayer Eyes trying to hunt down Valentine ahead. Valentine doing well in P7 in the moment. Let's have a look at the positions gained and lost. All but Cake Thomas in the top 11 have actually gained positions here. Final Flame and DB DeBest staying the same. Noganator up 7, Valentine up 7 as well, as we have a yellow flag, and it's Chief Braids around. Now he is parked kind of awkwardly coming out of turn 5 there. Thankfully, it doesn't appear that he's hit anything, and that car will be able to get turned around here, and the track will stay green. The top 3 within 6 tenths of a second here as they make their way into turn 11. As another yellow flag now. This is interesting. So this is Chief Braids. Well, we just saw him try to get through there. I saw the Williams of VTEC trying to make his way through. I thought maybe there was a collision. There wasn't, thankfully. Final Flame leads them down the pit straight. DB DeBest trying his best to close in on the Haas here. DB actually setting the fastest lap, 1:21.368. Gets within a tenth and a half here of the Haas as they make their way out of turn 2. Oh, shall he have a look down to the inside? No, Final Flame will defend the inside line. DB2Best is going to have to wait, perhaps, until exiting turn 8. Reimer looking on behind now. Reimer, again, has actually had a halfway decent start here, up 2 positions, but not necessarily pressuring the top 2 at the moment. He's quite content on being where he is. Now, that's a very dangerous game to play, but Reimer can sometimes play that game very well. We'll have to wait and see. Still the closest battle on track, the top 3 here. Making their way now through turn 8, in towards turns 9 and 10. It's 3.5 tenths of a second here between the top 2. Final Flame leads. Reimer looking on. Oh, and DB2Best has gone round and into the inside barrier, and that car is no longer in the Grand Prix, and it's only just a virtual safety car on track, and that car hooked violently coming off of the turn 10 chicane there, and unfortunately, well, we see that one quite often, has to be said. As Chief Braid's now picking up a drive-through for speeding into the virtual safety car, but if I try to wind it forward again and have a look at that accident, they were making their way in towards turns 9 and 10 here, and again, if you take too much of the curb on the outside, that accident will happen, as we were on with Reimer, and the Mercedes hooked violently to the right. DB2Best did all he could to get the car back down in time, unfortunately failed. 5th lap of the Grand Prix, we're down to 16. And Chief Braids will pick up a drive-through penalty for speeding into the virtual safety car. Now, I believe that may be his second. Did I not see that that message had popped up earlier? I could be wrong. No, you see, there's the message the first time. Chief Braids, I believe, on 2 drive-through penalties here. Well, as they make their way through Sector 2 now, Reimer behind Final Flame by 6.5 tenths here. And again, well, I mean, I had just mentioned it probably 30 seconds before the accident took place. Reimer very good, letting the action happen, letting the mistakes be made, and capitalizing on them as he can. Exiting turn 11 now. Sorry, turn 10. That was what turn 11 used to be there. Down the backstretch on the way into trying to make a move at Final Flame. This turn 11 has been quite widened, especially with the curb on the outside, and the apex has been moved in a little bit more, but the track itself being widened is Slayerized side by side with Valentine into the Ascari corner here at turn 11. Valentine, a little bit of a wiggle on the way out, catches it well, but is now under pressure from the Mercedes Van Boomeysen. Here he goes. Oh, Valtteri Bottas has had a spin going through turn 10 there. He's actually on the way into the turn 9 and 10 chicane. Hasn't hit anything, but a spin nonetheless for the honorary Australian of the day. Reimer now 0.4 of a second behind Final Flame. As we have, the red flag is out on track here in FP1. I do not know. Oh, goodness me, that's Alex Albon. He's had a massive shunt there going in towards turn 8 there. Red flag is out with 20 minutes remaining in the first practice session of the real-life F1 Grand Prix. Alex Albon has had a massive shunt heading into what appears to be the turn 8 and 9 section of the track. We'll have to get confirmation on that. Noganator getting around Scavney to the inside on the way into turn 9 there. Great move. Reimer now 4.5 of a second. And Williams of Hightower getting around Brian Mosser. Oh yeah, massive hit there for Albon. Front tire completely gone. Matter of fact, I don't know where the front tire is. Down the pit straight they go. 0.5 of a second or less separate Reimer from Final Flame. As down the pit straight go the rest of the procession here. No real looks of overtakes for now, as we do have a yellow flag. Now this is making their way... sorry, that was just Chief Braids getting out of the way there. I saw yellow flags and my heart rate went up just a little bit, but no harm, no foul. We do have, looking a little bit further back, a battle between... I believe it was, well, I forgot who it was. Ayahuasca, 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings for him. That was making his way either going through or exiting turns 1 and 2. Reimer down to the inside now, looking through turn 9. He's going to have to back out of that one before they get to the corner. You never want to go side by side through there. Bit of a wiggle for Final Flame. Looking at Alex Albon's on board now. Oh, so that. Oh, he's taking too much of the curb on the way out of turn 7. And he's thwacked to the right side wall. Even the brake, the brake cake tin there completely off the car. That is a hefty accident there for Alex Albon, smacking the right side wall. The cake tin for the brakes gone. Back to the action here. Reimer down the pit straight, 2.5 tenths of a second as they begin the 8th lap of the Grand Prix. There he goes, down to the inside. Oh, a little bit of contact, I think, there with the Haas. In through the corner. Final Flame trying to strike back to the outside. He's trying to hold it round. Down into the straight, in towards turn 3. We have an... Oh, it's the Alfa Romeo there of Chief Braids, I think, off at turn 2. As Knuckles getting overtaken by Kate Thomas there in the process. Something has happened with those two. I think Knuckles may have had a bit of an accident coming out of turn 14 there. As that car now suddenly well behind the pair. Final Flame now down to the inside of Reimer. This is going through turn 8 side by side. And Final Flame will get around with the aid of DRS. And oh, by the way, he'll get DRS a second time here exiting turn 10. As there's only the one detection point for the 2 DRS zones. So Final Flame will get a massive advantage here as they head towards turn 11. There it is now, as you can see, 6.5 tenths of a second. Ayahuasca down to the inside of Scavney, that time getting in towards turns 9 and 10. Got the Ferrari of Fire Up Flow having a little mishap there at the back. Scavney now trying to look to re-overtake the Alpine of Ayahuasca here as they make their way into turn 11. Making their way in towards turn 13 now. Back to the battle for the lead. Final Flame was able to hold it down the pit straight. Reimer's cut the gap back to about 4.5 tenths of a second here on their way into turn 3. We'll look at that one a little bit later on. Hightower losing about 2 or 3 positions there, both to Electric Blade and Brian Mosser. We know that much, as that car looked like it got out of shape coming out of turn 11. Not really sure what the case is with that, but the track stays green either way. Final Flame now leads Reimer. Now, Final Flame had just gone through that corner. That's where we had just seen the Alex Albon accident take place, so I'll give you the look here as Noganator's about to go through it. Now he's taken too much of the curb as, Ayahuasca's gone there. Yes, he has. Now, that car, that's exiting turn 5. That car has spun around there. He'll get back out on track, but he's got oncoming traffic here of Kate Thomas, who will go around the outside and take that spot. 2 tenths of a second here between Reimer and Final Flame. Say what, Reimer holding on really well so far, has to be said. Oh, a little bit of a slide on the back end for Final Flame on the way into turn 13. Down the pit straight they go. Will Reimer have a look here? He's going to choose the inside line. No, he gets back in line. And right up against the back end of Final Flame into the first corner. Reimer choosing to try to use the second bit of DRS here to his advantage down the straight heading into turn 3. Does he try to make the move now? No, he's going to back out. Reimer being very careful right now with his opportunities to overtake here, doing a good job at the very least trying to wear down Final Flame. That sort of thing does happen, especially when you got a quality driver behind you. Now, this is where Alex Albon is taking too much to the curb of the inside, smacks the wall on that right side, which Reimer's just passed. So that was that accident there. That was a hefty shunt for Alex Albon. Goodness me. Can I just have a look at the next driver we see go through this? I want to look at the telemetry. So that's about 120 miles an hour, then on acceleration to about 130 by the time you get to that barrier. Scary stuff, that one. Down the straight now, heading towards turn 11. Reimer behind by 4 tenths of a second on their way in. Reimer again doing very well, trying to wear down the driver ahead. It looks as if the top 3 on the mediums, but 5 out of the 7 that started on the softs have migrated to P4 and down to P8. Only had a couple of drivers pit here, that being Electric Blade, VTech, and Fire Flow. Remember, VTech crashing on the way out of turn 2, having to puncture, and then sitting throughout the virtual safety car, and then was able to get into the pit lane, no harm, no foul. DB the Best crashing, exiting turn 10, and Adeltonian crashing, exiting what I believe was turn 8. could be wrong as we get a couple drivers into the pit lane now. Valentine and Slayer Eyes. It's going to be medium tires on here for the McLaren. Bold decision. Hard tires for Slayer Eyes. A little bit surprised to see Valentine go to the mediums there. Perhaps is he hoping for the safety car, which very well could be an option. Well, I believe that cements Alex Albon as the lead in the Destructors Championship, because that's going to be a hefty fine to replace all those parts that he's hit, and I think he's hit probably the gearbox as well. Exiting turn 10, 0.2 of a second here the gap. Will Reimer try now? He's going to look to the outside. Final Flame's going to have to force in the long way around here through turn 11, and unfortunately the acceleration and the grip was better on the inside, whilst Reimer was on the curb. Final Flame will keep the spot for now. I would say we're getting close to the pit window here, especially if we're seeing these guys on the softs go in. I'm assuming we're going to see the medium tire runners make their way in here in just a couple of laps. Ayahuasca getting around Kate Thomas there as they make their way through turn 8. The two Red Bulls inverting position now as Reimer getting past Final Flame through the first corner. As soon as I thought the action was over, it starts again, and Reimer gets the position. So much action going up and down the grid. Reimer had gone round the outside, it seemed, and had made the spot into the first corner. Very nicely done as Andrew Mason will scab me into the pit lane. Chief Braid's a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. That'll be his third penalty of the day. Remember, he picked up 2 drive-through penalties in the proceedings. Those were both for speeding of the virtual safety car. We have Valentine down the inside of Knuckles now, that being for the 10th spot, and gets it done. Ayahuasca, oh, I think Scavney nearly had went around there, as Final Flame now getting around the outside of Reimer into turn 9. Bold place to try to make that happen. That was a big slide there for Final Flame. Reimer had to check up, but will have the acceleration advantage as they exit 10, heading to 11 now. Reimer around the outside. Oh, Final Flame nearly got overtaken there genuinely, but Reimer was able to hold on. Great racing here between these top two for the majority of the Grand Prix so far. Another slip there for Final Flame, and Reimer into the pit lane. Now that puzzles me a little bit, because Reimer, I think, was definitely the more confident driver on those tires. Final Flame was making a lot of mistakes. So into the pit lane now goes the Aston Martin of Reimer. Hard tires going on. And away he goes. We're assuming Final Flame's going to probably be in this next time by, just considering how much we saw him struggle on that last lap on these tires. As we have a yellow flag. Oh, massive accident there. Scavney goes round, nearly collects Ayahuasca, and a couple of drivers as well, and the safety car out here. And I tell you what, that nearly collected both the Williams of Visa Cash App VTEC there. In fact, no, he doesn't have any damage. Ayahuasca getting caught up in it. Brian Mosser, I think, also maybe tangling a little bit as safety car out on track here. Kate Thomas into the pit lane. Oh, and look at this. A little bit of argy-bargy going on here through the first corner. Noganator gets out ahead of Slayerized only just. So safety car on track, Final Flame making his way. He'll be pitting this time by. Reimer will, I don't think, inherit the lead of the Grand Prix, but he's already pit that last time by. We've seen Andrew Mason go to the softs, to the mediums, Kate Thomas to the mediums, Electric Blade to the mediums, the Williams of VTEC to the mediums, Ayahuasca to the mediums, and then Fire Up Flow, Brian Mosser, Knuckles taking the hards, as well as Reimer and Noganator. Final Flame does, well, hesitantly it looked, but does decide to come into the pit lane. I'm wondering what tires he'll choose to put on. Most likely another set of hards, but what he could do is stop for the softs here perhaps, and then go in at the end of the safety car and put on the mediums. Well, what he'll do here, he will go to the hards, so the top 4 drivers on even tire strategy. Plus or minus 1 lap as Slayer 2-lap old hard tires. Green flag has resumed here in free practice 1, about 8 minutes and 50 seconds remaining after Alex Albon's massive shunt. Reimer has decided to pit a second time. He's gone to the medium tires. So Reimer starts on the mediums, goes to the hards for just a couple of laps there. He pit the lap before the safety car came out. Was on track, did 2 laps in the hards, goes back to the mediums. Reimer is suddenly looking like he's got the best tire strategy on the grid. Well, the safety car on track, I'll stop the hard recording now. I always just like to make sure we have the hard recording in case the stream decides to poop the bed. But Reimer definitely, I would say, on the best strategy here out of anybody in the top 4. Valentine behind, and now he pit relatively early on. He's out on track in 5th place. 3-lap-old medium tires, although a lot of the running now is going to be done under safety car, so he won't have to worry about degradation. Seven minutes and 45 remaining in the real-life FP1. Norris, Leclerc, Tsunoda is the top 3. Alex Albon 10th, despite having his shunt. Magnussen 11th, Sargent 12th. Verstappen currently P6. Perez P4, Stroll P5. I don't know why I'm going in such a weird order, but atop the table, Lando Norris, followed by Leclerc and Yuki Tsunoda. Hometown heroes of Oscar Piastri and Daniel... Oh, well, Lewis Hamilton is just taking a trip through the grass there, going through the first corner. I believe that was the first corner, at least. Goodness me. That was almost catastrophic there for Lewis. I think he's gone well deep into the braking zone at whatever corner it was. Yeah, it was turn 2. Went well deep into the braking zone. That Mercedes suddenly became an off-road car. Let's just see. Into the turn 1 braking zone here. Yep, he's tried to turn. Oh, he's had a big correction. Across the grass he goes. He hasn't hit anything. No harm, no foul, but scary one there for Lewis Hamilton. Ayahuasca into the pit lane now. He's put on an additional set of the medium tires. Noganator joins and rejoins there after having to, I guess, lagging out perhaps. Halfway through this Grand Prix, only the first safety car of the day. Carlos Sainz on a timed lap now. He's currently 9th despite his ailments. Good to see. Well, before Lewis Hamilton rudely interrupted me, we've got, I was going to talk about Daniel Ricciardo, currently P8. About 0.4 of a second behind Piastri, although Piastri on the softs, Ricciardo on the mediums. Norris the top spot at a 1:18.564. Final flame lead of the Grand Prix here. I'm assuming we're going to get the safety car in probably this next time by. I don't think it's going to go yet, considering we're still waiting for Ayahuasca and Chief Braids here. Well, let's see. Let's see if it makes the late decision. I doubt it will. And nope, not yet. Well, Final Flame having the top spot again. Final Flame, who had a brilliant qualifying session, had battled with Reimer for the majority of the Grand Prix so far, has started and has stayed in the top spot. Of course, has been traded a couple of times, but is now undoubtedly on the worst strategy here. 5 minutes to go in FP1 in real life. Currently hands to Perez. He's had a massive bit of a correction there, exiting turn 11. Looks as if grip has become a slight problem here. Oh, into the grass that time. And that's exiting turn 13. He'll stay out on track, though. Tell you what, it looks as if grip is very difficult to come by here so far this session. We've seen a lot of drivers having these corrections, even on the soft tires, for what we've just seen there with Sergio Perez. Appreciate y'all joining this time out. The Australian Grand Prix. Quick look at the schedule yet to come here. I do believe next week we head to the Zandvoort circuit. Next week on the 28th we head to the Netherlands, the Zandvoort circuit. After that we head to Japan for the Japanese Grand Prix race weekend. Qatar after that, and Monza the next few rounds. We do have Division 2 chat happening here. Ayahuasca apologizing to Scavney. Scavney saying it's not his fault. Good sportsmanship there. Safety car. Safety car on its way in at the end of this lap. Remember, Final Flame had pit for the hard tires. Reimer had pit for the mediums. He had pit for the hards before the safety car came out, and then pit under the safety car anyways to go to another set of mediums. Undoubtedly on the best tire strategy so far. I want to take the time now to thank you for allowing us into your homes this evening and for future rounds to come. So Reimer, second place. Best tires out of the top 4. Definitely the best strategy here. I would say undoubtedly has an advantage over Final Flame now, but it's probably going to even out with how quick that Haas has been. We'll have a look at the improvements here. Noganator up 9 spots, Valentine up 9, Andrew Mason up 7, Slayerized up 6. As far as penalties are concerned, Ayahuasca and Chief Braids both on 3-second penalties here. Green flag back in the air. Final Flame's gotten a good jump. Reimer is not necessarily lagged behind that much, although there's going to be no contest going into the first corner. A little bit further behind, Electric Blade might have a look at Kate Thomas here. No, he's going to tuck back in line. That's still about 0.2 of a second here, the gap, as they make their way out of turn 2. Trying the left side now, Electric Blade. Is he going to try to send it around the outside? It's going to be a good attempt if he does. No, Kate Thomas blocks the line nicely there. Fire Up Flow gets around Hightower into the corner, though. That being for the 11th spot. Battle for the lead now, making their way through turns 6, 7, and 8. Reimer 0.6 of a second behind Final Flame. Won't have DRS for another couple of laps still. Electric Blade and Kate Thomas swapping positions there. Getting around the McLaren on the way through turns, through the turn 8 DRS zone. Less than 2 minutes in the real-life FP1 session. Norris atop the table, followed by Leclerc and Tsunoda. Tsunoda quicker in all parts of the circuit except for the Sector 2 DRS zones over Daniel Ricciardo, which is an interesting little stat. Out of the final corner they go. Remember, no DRS quite yet. Reimer still only behind by 0.4 of a second. Has now the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 1:20.759. Into the first couple of corners they go. Reimer's going to have the better grip here, but still not close enough to even look to challenge the Haas for the top spot. Electric Blade now, less than 0.2 of a second to the back of Bamboo Mason. He will dive to the inside, and he'll have that one well before they get to turn 3, assuming he can keep it, as Chief Braids is retired. That is exiting turn 1, entering turn 2. I'm a little surprised we don't have a safety car coming out on track right now, but he must be in a safe enough spot to not concern virtual race control. The track stays green. The Williams here of VTEC within 0.2 of Kate Thomas. Trying to find the way around the outside, and they'll do just that. Nicely done for VTEC. We go now back to the battle for the lead. Less than 0.2 of a second between the top 2. As Verstappen starting his final attempt now, but a second, a 10th and a half here separating them. Reimer really close to the back end of Final Flame, and again, I think Final Flame will need to work here, because Reimer, again, being on those medium tires, the better of the two compounds, we know they're going to be at least halfway decent by the end of the race. I tell you what, Reimer needs to get this move done quickly, though, because all the time he wastes, sitting behind Final Flame are potential opportunities for overtaking that he's not having. 10th and a half the gap here, DRS enabled. They won't have it this time as the one detection zone going into turn 13. They will have it exiting turn 8. FP1 is about to conclude here. Verstappen, one of the final drivers on timed laps. He's making his way through Sector 2 now. Norris the top spot, Leclerc behind by 4/100. Tsunoda third, less than a 10th of a second behind. Perez in fourth, less than a 10th of a second behind. And Stroll, a 10th and 3 milliseconds. DRS will be activated for Reimer here, down the turn 8 DRS zone now. As Max Verstappen's going to be crossing the line, but more importantly here, Reimer nearly had a look there. Verstappen's P2, he's behind Lando Norris by less than 2/100ths of a second, as George Russell will go third. So Norris, Verstappen, and Russell, your top 3. Leclerc and Tsunoda round out the top 5. Brian Mosser, a 3-second penalty. Knuckles down to the inside of Kate Thomas through the Alberto Ascari corner. That looked a good one. Down the pit straight they go. Reimer here, 0.2 of a second and counting. Looking to the inside of Final Flame, and he'll have that one before they get to the turn 1 braking zone. Nicely done for the Aston Martin, and guess what? He'll have DRS here, exiting turn 2. But Final Flame still right there, and is still right up against the rear wing of Reimer, despite not having DRS and on being the slower compounded tires with 10 laps to go here. This is looking like it's going to be a good battle. Electric Blade now looking for a move on Valentine. Contact with the rear end. And somehow, oh, that's another big slide, though, for Valentine. He's getting really close, driving on the edge here. It's scaring me a little bit. He's had such a good day so far. Up 9 positions since his initial starting spot, as well as Noganator, currently occupying 3rd. Again, as now, Final Flame down to the inside of Reimer gets the top spot. And he'll have DRS exiting turn 10 as well. Couple of good battles behind. Electric Blade down to the inside of Valentine there. It looks as if MWeS and VTech were side by side not long ago. A lot of battling happening up and down the grid here, which is always what we like to see. Valentine getting around Electric Blade for the time being. Does he do it through Ascari? Yes, he does. Behind VTech, getting around MWeS as well. Some great battling happening here in the midfield. But the battle for the lead with 9 laps to go. It's less than 0.6 of a second here. Does Reimer have anything? This time, Final Flame sets the outright fastest lap. Exiting turn 2 they go, 0.5 of a second, but now Reimer looking as if, as Noganator, a 3-second penalty. Going through 1 and 2, absolutely disastrous for him. Heavy over the curb there through turn 4 was Reimer. Going through 5 now. He's behind by 0.6 of a second. It's looking slightly desperation time here for Reimer. Because if Noganator can get out to an outright lead, that would be troublesome for the Aston Martin. To the inside now, Electric Blade heavy over the inside curb through turn 7. Through turn 6, I believe that is. That same little complex. VTech trying the left side now ahead. Reimer within 0.2 of a second, but VTech down to the inside. And he looks like he might get the move done over Electric Blade. Yes, he does. Reimer only got within 0.3 of a second of Final Flame there. No contest for the lead that time from the Aston Martin. So we'll go a little bit further back. Electric Blade trying his best to find something to VTech. VTech either really tried to look to the inside of the McLaren of Valentine or got out of shape coming out of that corner. Either way, stays in P6 for the time being. Down the pit straight they go. Reimer not close enough yet this time. 3.5 of a second, exiting turn 2. Reimer's going to have a good run this time, but look, this is what Reimer's good at here. Reimer is good at making it seem like he's kind of out of the fight, and in the process, trying to save up as much energy store as, as he can, up to 86%. Final Flame at 62, that's no laughing matter, but behind, Valentine and VTech swapping positions here. Going through turn 4, Valentine round the outside, will get around the Williams in a very difficult spot of the track as well. Nicely done, and Electric Blade in pursuit now, trying his best. Not quite close enough. Reimer now looking at the inside. Oh, that's a lot of contact with the back end of Final Flame. And Reimer was on one heck of a run there as well. Kind of slammed into the back end of the Haas, and I don't believe he'll have a look. Valentine up to 4th, and at the time being only 2/1000th of a second away from getting on the podium here. Slayer Eyes behind, VTech as well. VTech trying to have a look at Slayer Eyes. It's not quite close enough. Slayer Eyes nearly went to have a look to Valentine on the inside. I think Valentine blocked the line off nicely there. Have to seriously pay attention to that battle as well, because a lot of great racing happening on behind. All the while, that's allowing Noganator to get out to a little bit more far of a gap back to Valentine. Earlier on in that lap, it was 3.3. It's up to 3.9 seconds now. We'll check back with that later. VTech down the inside. Will he get Slayerized here in the first corner? Yes, he does. Oh, and heartbreak for Valentine, a 3-second penalty. Electric Blade nearly losing the car there coming off the turn 2. Oh, that's heartbreaking. Electric Blade down to the inside of MWeS, and he'll get that spot nicely. Oh, and Valentine's going to be losing several positions with that as well. Currently 4th, the next driver, and he has lost a bit of the front wing there. And it's not going to be enough to even warrant a virtual safety car, but you have to think of those things sometime as the end plate on the left front side is gone. 0.3 of a second separate the top 2. His next time by will be 6 laps to go. Oh, a bit of a wiggle there for Final Flame. This is what we saw at a Final Flame when he was getting uncomfortable on the mediums as well. The Williams of VTech getting around Valentine there. Exiting turn 14, Reimer doing his best. What the hell? Oh, forgive me. I thought I heard somebody coming up the downstairs, the basement stairs there. That scared the living daylights out of me. Anyways, well, Reimer has saved up a total of 100% of his battery here. Next time by will be 5 laps to go. And Mason getting around Slayer Eyes through turn 4. Difficult part of the track to make something happen, and he's done it nicely. Reimer with 95% battery and DRS. Into turns 9 and 10. He's close, but not close enough. He'll have DRS a second time out of 11. Big wiggle from Final Flame there. Does Reimer choose to attack now in towards turn 11? No, not quite. And I'm sorry, I keep referring to the turn 10 as turn 11. That's what it used to be, I believe. And unfortunately, my brain is still thinking that's turn 11, but it's actually not. It's turn 10. Electric Blade down to the inside of Valentine. That's going through Alberto Ascari corner. A little bit of contact there for the McLaren, and who is now not only going to be losing spots with the penalty, but is going to be losing spots on track as well. So heartbreaking for him when just a couple of laps ago was really in play for a podium. So exiting turn 2 now. 5 laps to go here in the Australian Grand Prix. Reimer, who's been really on the tail of Final Flame all day long, still there. And he's doing his best. And I tell you what, again, I've talked about this before, the amount of times that you'll see a driver get worn down because simply the pressure is so constant from behind. That's what we're looking at again here. Well, that could have very well been a track limits warning there for Reimer. He's gone well over the turn 7 curb. He saved up. There was a time there for the beginning of the lap, all 100% of his energy store. He's waiting and waiting for the time to use it. He knows Final Flame ahead. Well, he may not know Final Flame is 70%, but he knows that that Haas is looking slightly uncomfortable here. He's made a couple of more mistakes, oversteer moments. And I think, again, it is just because Reimer is wearing him down here. We'll have 4 laps to go at the stripe this time. Reimer 3.5 of a second away. Does he choose to attack? Still not using his energy store. Which again, even if he just used it a little bit down the straight here, it would help him. Because at that point, he would still have time to regenerate it into the braking zones at, say, turn 3 and turn 11. And turn 13 as well. These are all opportunities to recharge some of the energy, and Reimer is just refusing to lose it. This may be a problem for the Aston Martin here. He's running out of time to make his move, which I think is very well in play for him once he decides to go for it. He'll have 3 laps to go next time by, and yeah, again, he is desperately running out of time here, and I think it's all going to be on his own error, but now the battery being used, and he's going to look down to the inside, going through turn 8, and Reimer with DRS there gets the spot, and he'll have it a second time, and oh, by the way, he's got 90% battery to work with here. So he has DRS, has the overtake button as well, now about even with Final Flame behind. As Fire Up Flow with the fastest lap of the session so far in the Ferrari, very nicely done. Valentine getting around Electric Blade, that time being in through 9 and 10. Electric Blade is going to switch back down to the inside. Valentine will have DRS, but geez, a good-looking battle there. Valentine able to keep the spot. Of course, he has the time penalty to get around as well, but good battling. And now look at this. Reimer down to the inside, cuts off the toe as much as he can. 3 laps to go. That gap was almost outside of 8.5 of a second not long ago. Reimer using his battery as much as he can now. It's still 5.5 of a second, but as long as he can keep Final Flame back there, I tell you what, and as long as he keeps that battery being used, Final Flame's going to have a very difficult time. Reimer, I think this time, to perfection, making the move count unless he's not able to keep it. It's all up to Reimer now, and I tell you what, he is not any nearly as much as he was pressuring Final Flame as much as Final Flame is pressuring now. DRS activated though for Final Flame. He's going to have to send it here. Chooses the inside, and look at the pace differential. 12 miles an hour on both the battery and DRS being used, and Final Flame will have DRS here once again, exiting turn 10. Reimer in pursuit as well, keeps it within 0.3 of a second as the Williams of VTech gets around Noganator there. Nicely done. The Electric Blade battling Valentine again. This time they won't be side by side through 9 and 10. But still now the battle for the lead. 2 laps to go this time by, but crucially, Final Flame has used all but 35% of his energy store. Reimer, 75%. Reimer saving it up well, but he's now, again, on the back foot here. He is one more time running out of opportunities to try to find a move around the Haas. Oh! Does he save it? He does, but that very well could have been another unbelievably disastrous moment for Reimer. Thankfully, he holds the car, and he's still able to hold on to about 0.4 of a second here back to Final Flame, but I nearly would have lost it there if he would have lost it, because that would have been a very anticlimactic end to the wonderful battle that these two have been supplying all day long. We've got ourselves now about 1.5 laps to go. It looks as if we had a yellow flag there temporarily through Sector 1. Not sure where it is, but it settled itself quite quickly. So Reimer now, DRS, he'll have it again. Exiting turn 10, gets really close to Final Flame. Now puts the pressure back on the Haas here, although as they exit 10, Reimer is still not close enough here. He's going to have to fight for it. He'll have a peek down to the inside. He'll make Final Flame defend low, and maybe will the Haas push wide? Little contact there to the back end. Coming up on the final lap of the Grand Prix, it's 0.2 of a second between the top two. Making their way now through turn 14 for the final time, the penultimate time. Down the pit straight they go. Reimer behind by 0.3 of a second and closing. He's going to have to work for it. Does he have a look down to the inside? No. He chooses to wait. Through turns 1 and 2, Reimer through it. Final Flame, a 3-second penalty, and then nearly loses the car, and that is essentially handed this race win to Reimer. Through turns 1 and 2, an area which we hadn't seen Final Flame make many mistakes through, and he's gone too far over track limits too many times, and has picked up a 3-second time penalty. And Reimer now just pretty much needs to have a clean final lap here, and he will win the Australian Grand Prix, as Valentine, an additional 3-second penalty, puts him up to 6. Remember, Valentine not too long ago was also battling for podiums. Well, as they make their way through turns 9 and 10 now, this will be the difficult part of the track here for Reimer. Does he get through it cleanly? Yes, he does. The only final trouble zone he might have is through turn 13. The Alain Prost corner. Through the Alberto Ascari corner he goes for the final time. Heading into the penultimate corner, the Alain Prost corner, named after the multi-time champion. And now rounding the final corner, Reimer. Finally, could he have perhaps put an end to the bad luck streak? What he will do is he will win the Australian Grand Prix here. Final Flame, unfortunate for him, but will finish second. Hats off to the two of them, who have put together an absolutely tremendous display all day so far, and the championship leader of VTech, I think, may even extend his championship lead as a podium for VTech. Now, Final Flame AK has left the session here. That may register as the Haas not finishing there. Of course, that glitch very prominent. Kate Tom's up to 8th. Valentine will probably go down to 10th here or 11th here. Yep, down to 11th for Valentine, I'm afraid. But a great result there. Reimer taking the win. Hotspot, it's been a pleasure joining you this time. Be sure to join us next week when we head to the Zandvoort circuits in the Netherlands for the 4th round of this 12th Division 2 season. Reimer taking the win. Final Flame put up a great battle from pole, but a track limits penalty on the final lap unfortunately means he'll finish second.